The greatest challenge humanity is faced with is that which threatens its very collective existence, and ranking on that list is pandemic diseases. There has never been a time the world stood still like when a pandemic struck. Cholera, bubonic plague, smallpox, and influenza dealt the world a heavy blow to the gut. Some of these horrendous plagues, especially smallpox, which throughout history has killed between 300 to 500 million people in its 12,000-year existence, are regarded as the most brutal killers in human history. So, what about COVID-19? While it was initially seen to be an epidemic in China, the virus spread worldwide within months. The WHO declared COVID-19 a pandemic in March, and by the end of that month, the world saw more than 500,000 people infected and nearly 30,000 deaths. The infection rate in the US and other nations was still spiking. Well, now we're faced with another nightmare. The boogeyman himself, a deadly virus with a high fatality rate spreading like wildfire. The essence of this video is to bring you a warning, to help you take precautionary measures so that you don't turn into the next victim. There are many different types of microorganisms that are really harmful to mankind. None of them seems to be as deadly as the virus. The virus has proven to have a massive, catastrophic impact on the world on a very large scale. It's a tiny infectious agent that can only replicate inside a living cell. They're not alive in the traditional sense, as they don't have their own metabolism or cellular structure. Instead, they hijack the cells of their host to produce more viruses. Viruses can cause a wide range of diseases in humans, animals, and plants. Some of the most common viral diseases include the common cold, influenza, HIV/AIDS, and COVID-19. And the latest on that list, making great rounds now, is the CCHF. Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, CCHF, the deadly virus as it's been nicknamed, is a member of the Bunnyviridae family. Now, don't allow the big word Bunnyviridae to get you worried. Let me explain. It's actually a general term used to describe infections caused by a group of viruses spread to people by the bites of infected insects or rodents such as rats, ticks, and in the case of CCHF, tick is the culprit. It's also a zoonotic disease. That's a disease that primarily affects livestock, such as cattle, sheep, and goats. It can be transmitted to humans through tick bites or contact with infected animal blood or tissues. This virus is just like a terrible villain. It poses a serious threat to human health and has a mortality rate of 10 to 40%, making it a significant concern for public health worldwide, meaning that a lot of people could die if nothing is done ASAP to contain this monster on the leash. The virus, CCHF, was first identified in Crimea, Russia in 1944 and was later detected in the Congo, hence the name. It primarily circulates between ticks and animals, particularly cattle, sheep, and goats, but can also be transmitted to humans through tick bites and contact with infected materials. It's pretty scary to think about what this virus can do when it gets inside of you, but that's why I'm here to get you educated a little bit so that you don't fall victim to this thing. This killer virus causes a severe and often fatal disease characterized by a sudden onset of fever, headache, dizziness, and muscle pain, followed by hemorrhagic manifestations. That's uncontrollable bleeding. So you can imagine how excruciating this experience could be. The really crazy thing is that it has a wide geographical distribution and high case fatality rates, posing a significant threat to public health globally, exceeding 30% in some outbreaks. CCHF is primarily transmitted through ticks, and specifically those of the Hyaloma genus. These ticks serve as both vectors and reservoirs for the virus, maintaining its circulation in the environment. Secondly, it can be transmitted from one person to another through contact with infected blood or body fluids, making healthcare workers particularly vulnerable to infection. Another factor contributing to the transmission and widespread of CCHF is migration and transportation. As globalization continues to increase, the frequency and ease of travel have escalated, allowing viruses like CCHF to transcend borders. Infected individuals can unknowingly carry the virus to different regions, thereby introducing it to susceptible populations. Livestock, such as sheep and cattle, also play a significant role as reservoirs for CCHF because they can become infected and transmit the virus to humans through close contact or handling of their tissues. The virus infection can be diagnosed by simply taking laboratory tests, and patients with fatal disease, as well as in patients in the first few days of illness, don't usually develop a measurable antibody response, and so diagnoses in these individuals is achieved by virus or RNA detection in blood or tissue samples. Currently, there is no specific antiviral drug for CCHF, treatment, or approved vaccine available. Therefore, prevention, early diagnosis, and barrier nursing of patients are the only means to avoid viral spread. Additionally, work with infectious CCHV particles requires a maximum biocontainment laboratory. It's difficult to prevent or control CCHF infection in animals and ticks, as the only cycle between ticks and animals is usually very difficult to detect, and what's more, the tick vectors are ginormous and widespread, and the control with chemicals isn't the best or effective and realistic option. As of now, there is no particular cure. For those already infected, even though there's no specific cure, there are treatments that can be administered to help you recover. Although the treatment is primarily supportive, as care should include careful attention to fluid balance and correction of electrolyte abnormalities, oxygenation, and hemodynamic support, and appropriate treatment of secondary infections. It's also very important to note that the virus is sensitive in vitro to the antiviral drug ribavirin. It's also been used in the treatment of CCHF patients, reportedly with some benefit. The long-term effects of CCHV infection have not been studied well enough in survivors to determine whether or not specific complications exist. However, recovery is often slow. If you like this video, then you'll like other videos just like this one on our channel. Follow the prompt on your screen right now to watch the next educational and entertaining health video on this channel. While you're doing that, please remember to subscribe to the channel if you're new here and give all my videos a thumbs up to encourage me to keep on making some interesting videos like this. And, as always, thank you very much for choosing to spend your time with us today. We'll see you in the next video.